Hey guys, it's Dawn and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video is going to be a brief, spoiler-free book review of The Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society by Mary Ann Shaffer and Annie Barrows. This was one of my picks for the Historical Fiction-a-thon happening all this month of February, and it is a post-World War II novel, technically, although everything discussed in the book is actual wartime events. And what I mean by that is this book is brilliantly written in letter form. Our main character, Juliet, is a writer who became famous during the war years, writing kind of a humorous, I think, column about different events in the war. And now she's looking for her next big break and in search of ideas and all that kind of stuff. And she gets a random letter from a man called Dossie who lives on the island of Guernsey. So Guernsey is an island obviously south of England, and it was captured and occupied by the Germans during World War II. The reason Dossie got her address in the first place or was even able to contact her is because apparently Juliet had donated or, given away some books of hers and had left her name and address written in the inside cover. And so he'd enjoyed the book he read so much that he just really needed to send a letter to this person that had previously owned it and ask if she could possibly figure out how to send him, I think it was a biography of the author of that book. Obviously, he's living on this little island. They're recovering from the war, so he doesn't really have access to that kind of thing. So that's how this all starts. But I absolutely adore how this book is written. It's all in letter form, so there's literally no narrative. It's you have a letterhead, you have a date, you have who the letter's from, who it's to, and that sort of thing. And the interesting thing was it's not always like a letter from Juliet or to Juliet. Sometimes it's between other characters that are introduced. So that was super interesting. But I just love how the authors were able to capture each person's voice in those letters. Like, that is not easy to do. And there were many characters writing letters in this book. So I thought that was amazing. I was honestly quite stunned. My personal favorite, letter writers to read were, of course, Juliet. She's hilarious. I'll give you some examples of her humor a little bit later when I read some sections from this book. If I love Juliet, and then I love one of the islanders. Her name, I'm going to say it wrong. It's either Isola or Isola, Isola. But she was hilarious, totally eccentric, crazy, random lady, and I adore her. She was so funny and so charming. I loved reading from both of those characters' kind of letter writing perspective. I think besides the fact that the authors were able to tell a really great story just through letters, the fact that they were able to weave both a heart-wrenching and a charming and just lovely story of World War II in just such a simple way. It's, such personal letters that feel so very real, as if you were a historian, digging up all these letters out of the archives and reading them and putting together the story yourself. And it's fascinating. I loved it. It was a great read. Also, for you romance fans, which I usually am not in that camp, but in this case I was, there is a very cute and very relatable romance in this book. I think that was my favorite thing about it. A lot of times, especially in young adult fiction, which is why I have trouble with it anymore, the romance is very insta-love, very cliche, very tropey, whereas this one, as it was developing and you're kind of like, ooh, what's gonna happen? It felt very real. It felt like you could have been one of these people on the island just observing it and watching this very real, very realistic thing unfold, and it was amazing. I really admired the author's ability to go from a super humorous story to something very heartbreaking and traumatic in a very seamless way that was not jarring in any way, shape, or form. It felt very normal and natural. And it was also very interesting to kind of experience these islanders, recounting and reliving the things they went through this occupation of the Germans. Overall, I was just blown away by this book. I will definitely reread it again someday. It's something that's going to stay in my collection, and I am kicking myself that it took me so long to read it, because I've had this for a year now, I think over a year, because I bought it when I did a collab with Fraley Bradshaw. So yeah, I feel a little bit silly that this absolute gem of a book was just sitting on my shelf gathering dust and just waiting for me to finally discover it and just thoroughly enjoy it. I honestly think I might put this book on my list of all-time favorites. That's how much I enjoyed it. Okay, so let's talk more specifically about some examples of the writing, and all of these were good examples. I didn't find anything about the writing that I didn't like, so very impressed with that, because you guys know, you've watched my reviews, and I'm very nitpicky and kind of ridiculous when it comes to that. So the fact that I just have so many things that I absolutely loved and adored is saying a lot. So let's first talk about Juliet's voice. Sorry, I'm like waving this book around because I love it, and apparently it brings me joy to just hold it. But anyways, I want to start off with some quotes from Juliet, the main character, because I think her voice was captured so perfectly, and I can just imagine her, and I just want to be her friend. She's hilarious. She's so down to earth and so relatable and just incredible. So I'm going to read you a couple of her funniest quotes just because I think they really capture who she is and what you're getting into when you start reading this book, and I think you guys will enjoy it. So in this one, she's writing to her best friend. The best friend has been asking about a guy that has been kind of pursuing Juliet. So this is her kind of addressing that and responding to the friend's many, many questions about this guy. Your questions regarding that gentleman are very delicate, very subtle, very much like being smacked in the head with a mallet. Am I in love with him? What kind of question is that? It's a tuba among the flutes, and I expect better of you. And here's another one from later on. She threw like a small supper party and had to cook by herself, which she is not super good at. So this is what she said about it. I had a small supper party for him, cooked by me alone and edible too. Will Thisbe gave me the beginner's cookbook for girl guides. It was just the thing. The writer assumes you know nothing about cookery and writes useful hints. Quote, when adding eggs, break the shells first. So this book is just chock full of her saying super funny, sarcastic things like that. And maybe my humor is just very sarcastic, so that's why it jives so well with me. But I adored Juliet. I thought she was so funny and so relatable, and I could just imagine myself in her shoes, and that was very fun to read. I also loved the author's ability to be profound in each of the different characters' voices. So this one is in, I think, Isola's. Yeah, this is in her voice. It's talking about the character Dossie. She says, it suddenly struck me that Dossie is a lonesome person. I think it may be that he has always been lonely, but he didn't mind before, and now he minds. Why now? It captures Isola's kind of like rambling, nonsensical style. She's very high energy, very eccentric, and yet it says something like it's a very profound and deep observation about another human being. And I think the authors were incredibly talented that they were able to write so many voices and make them so distinct, and I don't know, get their point across with all these different voices. And I don't know, I just found it really enjoyable to get to know all these characters in different ways. I love each of them on their own, but of course some more than others and for different reasons. So yeah, I'm just really, really impressed with how they pulled this off. That kind of wraps up everything I wanted to say about this book, because obviously I don't want to go more in detail and give spoilers, but suffice it to say, I loved this book. It's on my list of favorites. I recommend it to anyone that enjoys historical fiction, romance, if you're particularly interested in World War II. It's just a really, really good book. Even I would recommend it to anyone who's just interested in the idea of writing a book only through letters, because it's not easy to pull off, and I think it was done really well. So I am going to give, for the very first time, I think, on my channel, a 4.5 to the Guernsey Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society. The only reason I didn't bump it up to a 5 is because on my kind of rating metric, I consider a 5 to be something that, changed the way I saw things, changed my perspective or my opinion. However, everything in this book is already stuff I agreed with. So while it was amazing and inspiring and all those sorts of things, it didn't expand my worldview in any huge way. So I don't think it's like personally life-changing. I just thought it was really, really, really fun to read. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this book review, let me know down in the comments. I really appreciate it. If you've read this book, I would love to hear your thoughts on it, hear if you also loved it as much as I did, because as you can tell already from this video, I love this book. It's so good. If you want to see more book reviews from me, I try to upload them once a week. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I also do a writing related video once a week as well, on a different day, obviously. So if you're interested in writing related content, watching me, revise my manuscript and move towards potentially traditional publication in the realm of fantasy novels, then yeah, subscribe to my channel. I hopefully will not disappoint you. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you have an amazing week, and as always, happy reading. Bye!